All right. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, August 14th, at 10:30. I'd like to bring the King County Administration Committee to order. Mr. Caius is not here, so I will be acting as the chair. May we have roll call?
Berman,
Here.
Davist. Mr. Davist. Ford,
Yes, there we go. Unmuted. Davis here.
thank you so much. Mr. Ford. Gums,
Comes here.
Young,
Here.
Caius. Juby,
Here.
Tepe.
Tuppy remote.
You have an in-person quorum.
Okay. Mr. Davis has requested remote attendance, so is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
All right, you're in, Mark.
Madam Chair Gums,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask for unanimous approval for the minutes from July 10th, 2024?
Sure, you can ask for unanimous approval.
Agreed.
All right. That moves us to public comment. Anyone have any public comment? Kidding me?
I was going to, but,
You want to? You can.
no, you know what? I,
Taking the day off.
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
well, you can. If you change your mind later, I'll put you under at the bottom.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
all right. Okay, so none of that. That brings us to item number 7, our monthly finance reports. Did anyone have any questions about those? Did anyone read those?
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, no questions? All right. That moves on to number 8, which is the facilities master plan update. Do we have one of those?
Yeah, so we don't have Jason Dwyer from White with us, but Heidi Files is here. She'd like to give you an update on where we're at.
Even better.
We would
Oh,
love to
thank
hear
you.
that, Heidi.
Thank you. We did send out the draft with another copy of the draft noting all the markups. We think we heard everything the committee said. We incorporated those comments and changes into the plan. I haven't heard any additional suggestions or comments, but if you do, please email me. Everybody should have it. And Mr. Caius isn't here. We're missing some and Jason. So we'd like to wait until next month, give you some additional time. Any questions or comments, email me, and then we'll bring it forth for a resolution for approval. That plan, that draft that you all received.
Okay, what's our drop dead, get back to you date?
I would say if you could do it in the next 2 weeks, that'll give me time to make additional changes and resend it back out so you have enough time for the next admin committee.
Okay, are you looking for feedback just from our committee, or are you looking for feedback from the entire board at this time?
Well, I'd like to have feedback from this committee first, because
Okay.
if there are additional changes, I could do it one more time, send it to the whole
Okay.
board. And we can, so I'd like
Okay.
to hear from you first.
I didn't know if you wanted to do it twice or not. So, because that additional 2 weeks, we could blast it out to everybody and then,
Yeah, I could do that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's whatever's
that-
easiest for you. I just thought if
That works.
other people have changes, then you'd end up making changes twice.
I'd
So,
probably send, because they haven't been paying attention to every single
fine.
draft.
Yeah.
I'd probably send the final plan without the markups to the board so they can review it. You know what has been changed from the
Right.
different versions you've seen, and I can do that tomorrow if
Okay.
that would be good for everybody.
I just think that,
Yeah, I
you
think
guys
that
agree that it's
works.
good to get everyone's feedback?
Madam Chair Gums,
Yes, ma'am.
I feel where you're going. However, to stick with committee structure,
Oh.
I just think that this is where we're doing business.
All right.
So.
Okay.
Madam Chair. This is Roger from IT and Building Management. One of the things that we have been doing when we present at committee of the whole is encouraging the whole board to submit anything that they have or recommendations that we can incorporate. So, I agree with the comment about following the committee process. They will get a part in this in every step of the process where we go through exec and full county board. And there was a discussion about once the plan is moving through the committee process and has some momentum, we would do another committee of the whole to show it as this is the admin committee's recommendation to adopt the plan. And we want the committee to adopt the plan and recommend it. So that's where we're trying to get to.
Do you have anything else to say about it, Heidi, or?
No.
No, anybody have any questions? No? Okay, moving on. Item 9, the executive director's report. Looks like we're talking about the budget presentation.
Yeah.
Yay.
Ready?
Go ahead.
All right, so this is Roger again. At last month's meeting, we did not present our budget as a presentation. We provided the reports that finance had asked for. Most of that was due to the fact that our reports were provided on, I think, Thursday or Friday, and our agenda was due on Wednesday before that. So we could not put everything into the packet, but it gave us some extra time to go through the budget. And we also followed the finance committee and special finance committee meetings. So we have some insight as to how we'll handle certain aspects of what was asked from finance. But we're going to go through this. There's a lot of numbers in here, and we can answer as much or as little as you want about the numbers. But we may have some things where we have to go get follow-up from some staff if it's something too specific. So we try to know everything, but we have a lot of people here too that can hopefully help answer questions. So we'll get started. Let's see, Blair, where we got the on button first, right? Technology. Okay, so we started with our mission and mission statement, and there's some goals in here as well. But we're trying to exceed expectations for the buildings and facilities and technology. And I think that's something that we strive for every day. And it's something that we are looking to try to instill in all of our staff and all of our leadership, is that it's okay to just do what's asked of you. But if you see something, if you can make things better for the work environment, for the computing environment, we want you to actually take that extra step and try to exceed expectations any chance you get. And I think we're doing a much better job at that in the past year. We do support the offices, departments, and we actually support a few other programs in the county that you may not be aware of. This is our organizational structure. So we report to the administration committee under the county board. The IT department and building management department were merged into one department under an executive director about 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. So there's information technologies and building management. That merger still represents multiple funds or multiple budgets that are underneath what would be called a single department. So we still refer to them as departments or divisions of information technologies and building management. And I would tell you that none of them stand alone. We're actually merging certain functions of the departments in the last year and a half. So we have shared services for things like accounts payable, for payroll, for budget, for financial controls, some of the project services. So there's the synergy of overlapping a lot of those services between what used to be different departments kind of in their silos. Now we can do payroll more centralized, accounts payable, procurement, those types of things. It's getting much better, much more efficient from our side of things. IT, there's 53 employees, building management 49, GIS has 10, and Mill Creek has 1. We got Bill Meyer, he's the one and only. So, the division of IT, we run computer systems, which is servers, desktops, laptops, peripherals, those types of things. We also run a network and telecom services group. So we run all the network and all the telecom wireless infrastructure for the county. We have an applications and database group that runs all the applications, software, and databases for the county. We run project services. We have an administration group. And then as you shift over, we have some people that are doing project management services that are kind of a hybrid and cross over whatever projects we have for IT and building management. And then there's also a security officer, and we have a person that does some communications analyst work between applications development and the board office. Building management is fewer divisions, but the labor is generally between maintenance, and we have a judicial center maintenance director and a government center building maintenance director. And then there's 2 different sets of buildings. We have 29 buildings, almost 1 million square feet that they divvy up and manage those buildings for maintenance and repairs. And then we shift over to capital. Right now, we're running a group of projects managers. We have Heidi Files. Mark Smith is here. Brooke also works on project management. Charles works on project management with buildings, and myself. Beyond that, this year we added the cleaning staff, which janitorial services was moved from contractual into employees. So you'll see that was a difference in this past year where we shifted a lot of the work into personnel from the cleaning and janitorial budget. In 2024, we had actually tried to budget a transition period where we would do contractual for janitorial until we had everybody hired on. That was not allowed. They cut the janitorial contractual services. So we were essentially asked to go into the year with no contractual services budget for janitorial and hire everybody. Well, you know, you can't hire everybody, 15 people overnight. So we have, in 2024, we had expenses over for the contractual period, but our employee salary wages budget would have been under because we hadn't hired everybody yet. So I think that stuff in 2024 balances out in 2025 much better. We also hired painters to do painting. You notice probably around the campus, we've painted buildings that haven't been painted in 20, 30 years. That was something that was instituted just for the aesthetics and maintenance of the environments. And it's been a huge improvement over years past when we didn't have painters and we had to contract for any paint job that we wanted. So we're getting more, preventative maintenance and recurring types of things for a painting schedule. But that's pretty much the building management department as it sits. There's 49 people. A lot of it is cleaning staff, maintenance techs, and painters. So we have maintenance technicians that do all the preventative maintenance and repairs on equipment and contacting and working with contractors. GIS department, we have Tom Nikowski here. Tom's the chief of GIS. GIS right now is 10 people. There are some people that we subsidize and pay for in other departments using the GIS recorder's fee. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, the recorder's fee. But there's 10 people in GIS, and again, the one person in Mill Creek. But that's generally the division of labor in IT and building management. Okay. Let's see. This may be hard to read. That's why I did the handouts, but these are the things that we just discussed, the things that are in these departments. These are the things that your money is paying for. These are kind of the narrative descriptions in brief form. I tried to provide those just in case somebody is curious about what GIS does, or, we also handle the mail room and we do the print shop for the county. Those are maybe lesser services, but when you're doing vote by mail or mail-in ballots or voter registration cards, they become pretty high profile. So we'll start off with building management. The way these are set up is to show you kind of an overview of the personnel and wages, the contractual and the commodities. And then we handle capital and certain countywide services separately from the department budget. So you're going to see personnel and wages. You're going to see contractual and commodities for IT, building management, GIS. We have, and then we have Mill Creek Special Service Area. And then we have another budget for capital for IT and buildings, countywide capital. And then we have countywide expenses. So we're going to try to go through that today. So these were the goals that I shared a few months ago with the Chairman Caius of the Administration Committee. I believe these goals were a part of a memo that went out to a larger group, but we were asked to provide this to the county board office for the committee. So these were our goals. Most of these are kind of recognizing the things that we do, preventative maintenance, ADA improvements to the buildings where we need to. A lot of our work is heating and air conditioning systems, major mechanical systems, replacing them per the capital plan. You'll find that this year we have a lot of projects that are being funded under ARPA, and that's a huge relief for the capital fund, but it also affects operations and maintenance. So the more that you replace these 15, 20, 30-year-old systems, we're hoping that we can control some of the operating and maintenance costs or keep them relatively flat, and you'll see that shortly. We're also working on pavement, concrete, and asphalt. Same with major mechanical. We have a lot of asphalt that's failing. It's just in bad repair. lot of years of not sealing it, and it's taken the wear. Some of it's just old. We are working on replacing exterior lighting and controls at the Judicial Center campus. That's actually underway now. We're hoping to finish that in early next year, I would say. If not, we can get to through the rest of this year. We did get the authorization for the health department facility and the programs and services that they are looking to put into the new health building. We're going to be working with them to try and help them get that building operationalized. That's for 2025. And then we desperately need office space, storage space, and surface parking. Those are the things that are really driving demand from offices and departments right now. They will tell you they don't have office space. They don't have space to store stuff. In fact, recently for storage, we were asked to move some of the storage containers because they were too near fire suppression. So we have to actually find a place to move some stuff to because we're not meeting fire code if we keep them near the sprinkler heads. So we're trying to figure out where can we store more. They're literally their storage containers, like tubs of stuff.
Madam
So-
Chair comes.
Sure.
Do you want me to wait until you're done? I'm glad to wait till you're done with everything, but
It's your meeting. I'm fine.
well, one of my questions on this topic, so you identified that we needed all this space, and I guess my question is, what departments, can you identify those departments that need the space, and what are we looking for? What are what are we looking for as far as storage?
So, yeah, the storage space that we're looking at is approximately 50,000 square feet of storage. We need loading docks. We need the ability to back tractor trailer trucks up to the buildings to load and unload equipment. And the way we calculate the 50,000 square feet is to look at what we have in storage in what I would describe as temporary storage spaces. We have things stored all over buildings. The shell space at the jail, the old coroner's building, the 3-season room on the Yellow House, every closet, offices throughout the county filled with things. There's 5,000 square feet of space that's being used for storage in the multi-purpose building, which was not the intended storage, but it's being used for that because there's no other place to put it. It was supposed to be a shell space and managed storage for building management and potentially the expansion of the coroner's office. It's full. I mean, it's just packed with stuff. If you look at the North Campus, which is the King County Branch Court, the end where the elections equipment and we have records, that's where some of the fire code challenges are. They've amassed massive amounts of records in boxes and tubs. We have some pictures of what we're trying to fix over there. But if you add all of that up to alleviate it, it's about a 50,000 square foot need to alleviate what we have and get a proper facility. And then alleviating that would give space for operational space for those people to expand their operations or do some things in their office. I don't know that it would meet all their office space needs. And by that, I mean, at the Judicial Center right now, the judiciary is asking for additional office space in their space needs report. And during the Safety Act planning, they showed, I mean, at one point, 50 to 100% increase in the number of people that were going to go into the Judicial Center.
But what does that look like in square footage? Do you have
Well,
any
at
idea?
one point in the master planning process, we were talking about 100,000 square foot building, and it's massive. And I'm thankful that a lot of the Safety Act things have not pushed to where you need that kind of space. But, there was a discussion about moving the circuit clerk into the building at the Judicial Center because from the time that they put them in the circuit clerk building, they have said that that's a dysfunction. They need to have the circuit clerk where the court is. So you don't, they have a court clerk's service desk in the building, but the goal would be to get the circuit clerk at the campus where the court is. So that would go into the building. They would create additional space for offices for the public defender, for the state's attorney's office, for court services, for adult supervision, stuff like that.
So if I can
That
continue,
was, go ahead.
don't mind. So we've identified storage as 50,000 and judicial needs 100,000. Those are only
Yes.
two of the items. And
Yes.
obviously I'm going
Sure.
somewhere with this. So
Well,
what other space do we need to acquire?
so this campus is at capacity as well. You will find that we're renovating, the mailroom across the hall to try and accommodate some, employees in space. Those are some of the last, nooks and crannies that you have available on this campus to house people in reasonable accommodations. The next step into this is asking offices and departments about using other space. And we've had conversations with some of these partners, and all of them will tell you that they want their staff and their employees and their management team to be in the same location as them. That they do not want to move to a satellite office or relocate their staff. They want them with them. And it's like, okay, well, the office space doesn't change just because we move a desk or because we move a chair. You're not getting any more square footage, and the density of those spaces is at capacity. I mean, we have people sharing, 10 by 12 spaces, and they're saying the other demand that we get a lot is they want private office for private phone calls, for confidentiality, and then also to participate in online hearings and online meetings. So a lot of the space that we have right now that's shared, they'll tell you that that's not adequate. They need privacy. So take the location theory. They need to be near their people. They want them to be on the same campus, if not the same building. At one point, we were told they need to be on the same floor. We don't even want them to be separated by a floor. So that's the kind of logistics that you're working with when you have these discussions. So,
Bless you.
when we talked about the potential of relocating people off campus, it might be departments within the county board's control that get moved to the off campus as opposed to any of the elected officials. And that's just because of their needs to be in and around the court buildings. You have the treasurer, the clerk, the recorder, county board office, auditor on this campus. And, all of those services are in the government center at the government building. Could they move to another location? Possibly, if you were, looking for a way to get them into a better space. Is it centralized in, this area, or is it north or south, or we're looking at satellite offices for some of those services in Aurora and Elgin both. And I think that's a good way to expand the footprint of what you do in buildings that are satellite based. And, if you're not building a government center campus the way it was designed back, 20 years ago, and you're doing a distributed model, I'd like to call it the Jesse White transportation model, right? We're going to push out and get buildings that we're going to run our offices from in the field. And it can be done that way, but the cooperation is probably where our biggest challenge is. And then the last part, the surface parking, a lot of that centers around the sheriff, the multipurpose building, and some things that we need to do that were left undone. And by that, I mean, during the process of building out the multi-use building, this was 4 years ago, there was a plan that was done to add surface parking for the vehicles that they seize. So there's a lot that was at Fabian campus. We need to do surface parking to accommodate what was being done in that back lot at Fabian, and to accommodate other vehicles for OEM and the sheriff. There's just not enough room to handle all the vehicles that we have over there for them. So they're parking them in unusual places, which cause traffic problems for people navigating the lots, people bringing in tow trucks with cars in tow, people bringing in, big trucks. One of the comments was we don't have an adequate turn radius and parking lot to get a semi in and pull a semi through. And that's one of the challenges that they have right now. And not to get into the door circumstances, but the doors contribute to that too, the overhead door issue that we've had. But those are the three main areas, and you're absolutely right. The space study or the space needs assessment, as much as it was done 2-3 years ago, it probably could be revisited again because Safety Act and some of those things didn't manifest the way they thought.
It's actually increased. The space needs have increased as a result of the Safety Act.
Generally, and I think they've increased, but maybe not to the extent that the Safety Act, initially was like, hey, we may need an additional 50% office space.
And I hope you
Now.
understand why it comes here again. I hope
Yeah.
you understand why I'm asking
I
these
know.
questions. We've identified that we need 150,000 square feet of space for only 2 subjects. And
Yeah.
I don't have to say it out loud. You all know what I mean when I talk about that. So,
And the biggest challenge in that particular question would be, is there space structured for storage, loading and unloading that's suitable? The other one would be location, location, location. Can you get the people to work out of those offices? The surface parking, they want it at the building with surveillance and fencing,
makes sense.
because it's, some of it's evidence even. So it's like, they're like, they need it there and they need it yesterday.
And that's
So,
understandable to me. Totally get that.
yeah.
Okay, you can move along.
okay.
I
All right.
just,
Sorry
I mean,
about that.
I had to highlight that because
No.
it really bothered me when I was reading this for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So now you need to speed up your presentation.
Okay. Well, so this is for the main event, right? These are the salary and wages, contractual services and commodities. There's a little bit of revenue that we get. We do some things where we lease farmland and we collect some other revenues, but not much. The salary and wages, and you'll see what was the 2024 amended, and then you'll see the 2025 submitted and it's in review. It's $65,000 in difference. Most of that is related to equity and cost of living raises that were done, and then changes in positions that occurred throughout the year. There's also contractual services, or they went down by $67,000, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then commodities, which a lot of that is kind of utilitarian supplies and things, where we added for janitorial and other stuff. But the net change from 2024 to 2025 is $59,964 in the building management operating budget. This doesn't include capital and doesn't include certain county-wide expenses like postage and other things. At the Special Finance Committee, they were including in IT and building management, they're including things for the county-wide expenses, which are really large expense accounts that cover all of the offices and departments. So when you look at this and you look at the $59,964, compared operationally, the building management department's within 1% of what they asked for last year. So I just want you to know that in the finance meeting, we were recommended afterwards to cut building management's budget by 4.8% and over $400,000. So that's a 3%, cut from, what we have in the 1% increase. So we're going to be technically 3% under last year if we cut the 4.8%. And we're working on that right now. But just so you're aware, our cut is not from something that was an increase in our budget. Our cut is actually going to be less than last year's budget, as opposed to others that asked for large amounts of money and they're going to reduce their request, but they're still going to be 20% over last year, 10% over last year, just so you're aware.
Madam Chair comes.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to highlight what I think kind of got glazed over, and I just want to say you are working on looking at budget cuts. You are working
Yes.
on that.
We
So
were told to do that. We're doing it.
very good. So I just wanted, it kind of got you
So
passed over it quickly, but I want to
Yeah.
identify that you are doing that.
So what our challenge is that we have to cut $400,000 from those $400,000. You'll notice that it's equally distributed pretty fairly between salaries and wages, contractual and commodities. So you have a couple things going on. You have people, right? 40% of this is people. Contractual services is up there. Contractual services primarily is maintenance of the buildings and maintenance of the grounds. That's the two things that generally we're doing with those items in contractual. Commodities is things like utilities, electric, gas, sewer, water. So those are the things that we're trying to cut 400 and some $1,000 from. We're working on it. We'll try to get there. Ultimately, most of those things, and I try to explain that most of the things that IT and buildings will do for the county are not self-serving for IT or buildings. We're doing it for the 29 buildings, for the 2,000, people that are using computers. We are buying it for them. So essentially, the services that we provide, electric, we provide water, we do all those things to pay for. It's not something we consume. It's something they're consuming.
So just to follow up on that, if I
Yep.
may, I believe the Special Finance Committee, I listened to it. I would think it was here. Anyways, I think their charge was for you to identify that you cannot live without certain things and
Sure.
to express that to your
Yeah.
committee, which is us.
Yep.
And articulate that. So
Where we're going.
you cannot cut anything from your budget. I think the ask from finance was to justify why that can't happen and come before your committee and explain that.
And I think we're working at it. We're going to try to come up with what we can. We won't, stop short of that. There's things that we think we might be able to reduce. We're going to look at things that we increased over last year. There's another thing that's going on here too. The learning curve of employing all the cleaning people, employing the painters, and seeing the commodities and things they consume has been, you're not sure exactly how much you're going to consume. So we're kind of growing into that right now. The other thing that occurs is the power, electric, gas. Since we did, and this is nothing against anybody's plans with solar, but since we did solar and we did the procurement for power between ComEd and the broker and Dynegy and the power, we haven't seen a clean electric bill in 6 months where it's clearly understood what our consumption is and what the costs are. And it's nobody at the county's issue. It's ComEd and the people that broker ComEd services. And so we get one bill that says you owe us $20,000. And then the next bill, they tell us literally in June or July, they owe us money, and we're like, I don't know how our electric bill could possibly be, no matter how much we do, how much, that they owe us money. So we started investigating it. We know that there's a lot to be done. Jody's working on that. We have a consultant from the energy side that's working on it, but we're trying to figure that out now.
So tagging on that, will you
Yeah.
have your suggestions for your cuts the 16th, which is what everyone was?
Yeah, I think we're
Has
done
to do.
probably today or tomorrow. We'll be
Okay,
done.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Mr. Young?
David Young. We had a conversation about that $1 million HVAC,
Yeah.
engineering project. So
Yes.
that just stands out in my mind is like, can that be whittled down? And to I still don't see that being justified. I mean, it
Yeah.
passed, but that's sticking in my mind right now is, you have those major engineering fees that
We
that you took on.
Yeah.
And maybe you could look at something like that and go back to those
So
companies and say, hey, we need to cut this. I don't know if that's
Well,
even an option.
yeah, the only thing I would say is this is the operating budget for building management, and the fees for engineering and capital construction would be in the capital budget. So we'll get to that. A lot of those are backed up with ARPA funds for doing, and in order to get the plan sets and the bids out with official documentation, some of those require like engineered plans. So and those cover literally over $10 million worth of projects for them to do engineering on. And we kind of debated using multiple different architects and engineers. And we did an RFQ, and we looked at a couple different companies. And actually, one of the companies that proposed on it, we're going to bring them back in to do commissioning even. And I think it didn't make this agenda, but we're going to bring that back in, that instead of having the architect and engineer that was doing the design and all of that, and then we have the construction company and the implementation contractors, having another commissioning agent come in, especially for the water systems that we're looking at. We're looking at domestic water systems, and Jody Wolnick and Energy Environmental told us that we should have an engineering firm come in to commission the water system. So we're trying to do that next month. But those are all capital though. They're not in the operating.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was more than enough.
ARPA funded.
Miss-
Yes.
Mr.
I'm
Roth?
sorry.
Um,
She's not saying they're capital projects, but they're in ARPA funds too.
Okay.
Roth here. Question is, we switched over where we're having the cleaning
Yeah.
inside. Is that going to save us money or just better service?
It's better service, it's better control.
Right.
I think when we were looking at it, it was near break even kind of proposition. It wasn't done to economize or save money. The biggest problem we had was in secure areas where we have criminal justice, CJIS and leads and other requirements, getting people screened and back in to clean when somebody's a no-show, or somebody that they have a known face and a relationship with, and they have a vested interest in working for the county. We have a relationship with them. So a lot of the people from the cleaning companies, they would come and go, not show up. We'd have to find somebody new. So we're hoping that we can get some consistency, but it's probably not a
A savings.
cost savings,
Right.
not direct, but the other thing would be better product. We're hoping that the cleaning is done more effectively.
And I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Can I go back on the storage?
Do whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Do you
Don't
have?
make it last till next meeting, okay?
No, I won't do that. I'm not trying to set a record. A breakdown, like in building A here,
Yes.
we have a lot of storage here. Is it documented how much square feet we're using in what department?
Not in building A, but in some of the
'Cause
other.
there's a lot
departments.
here.
Yeah, those are more of the nooks and
Yeah,
crannies.
and I've come up with a new quote. Build it and we'll fill it. I mean, you mentioned the corners. I was there and there's a lot of old furniture. And I know at Third Street, furniture magically shows up in the basement that someone doesn't want anymore.
Yep.
And I think some of these departments
Yeah.
need to be encouraged that we're going to charge you if you're going
We,
to.
we probably.
I
could
know if we
hire a
can't legally
person.
do that, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
broken
hire-
out. I wouldn't even accept at my museum. And we're a
Yeah.
nonprofit, so we will accept donations, but
I would imagine hiring or assigning a person just to do inventory to see.
well, and we're not
Away.
looking to spend money, but I think we need to put pressure on some of these departments. I don't know.
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
Sorry.
I know this was not supposed to be a long meeting, but it is going to be a long meeting.
is. It
We're-
needs to
We
be.
have work to do, right? So thank you for being here. But to kind of piggyback off Mr. Roth,
Sure.
I know we have been working on digitalizing these physical files and stuff like that. I'm not sure where we are in that process, but when it comes to, the vision of how many boxes of pieces of paper do we have that we don't need?
Yeah.
That's,
There's-
for me, that's a huge question before we go looking for a 50,000 square foot storage facility. How much are we going to actually move over there and how much are we going to throw away?
Yep.
And I know there's statutory issues as far as how long we have to keep documents, but I think we need some of those answers too. So.
And I would not make this recommendation without the clerk being involved, but one of the things that would help would be to find a really suitable warehouse that's centrally located for the election equipment to free up the probably 25,000 square feet of space in the branch court that's being used for elections. The space is not, really suitable for what we're doing there. Just doesn't have loading docks or truck bays. It's got a kind of a makeshift loading dock, but that would give a place to expand more records storage, which the state's attorney's office and others have probably 5,000 to 7,000 square feet of record storage and its retention for court cases. I don't know that they can get rid of them or not. but it's secure storage. They need it locked, surveilled, access controlled.
So is that new storage building in the budget this year?
No.
Can we move on then?
Yep.
I want to be rude, but if it's not in the budget,
Not
we
in
have a
there.
lot to get
Yep.
through.
We need to, you may see us come back and talk to you about leasing a storage space if it's not in the budget to buy.
Okay.
Just a
But
place where
we're
we,
not doing it now.
not right now.
Okay, let's stick with
No.
what we're doing now.
So this is the IT department budget. I'm going to lean on Charles a little bit because he probably knows some of these better than I do. But for time, we do a lot of work in all of the offices and departments. The only office that we don't explicitly manage the computers and the software is the recorder's office. They handle their own. And then we also don't do as much with the regional office of education. But for major systems, which would be finance, tax administration, vital records, elections, sheriff, public safety, adult corrections, the 16th Judicial Circuit, state's attorney, public defender, judges, even adult supervision, all of those offices and departments, and I probably missed some, we manage their network infrastructure, their telephone, security systems, computer hardware, software systems, enterprise software, databases. I think servers were somewhere over 700 different servers between production, development, and test. We have about 2,000 devices for computers, laptops, and PDAs on our network every day, plus guests. We maintain and work with enterprise GIS for the parcel information, cadastral. They do all the property updates that come through. We also manage and are looking forward to reinitiating the fiber optic leasing that's in there for this year for IT. We've already been working on some agreements. And then one of the things we try to do is expand the use of existing systems. DocuSign is great. It creates a lot of efficiencies for people to process paperwork without having it trafficked SneakerNet or through traditional mail. Laserfiche is a forms and records library. It's actually our record systems for things that don't have record systems. If you have something that you need to keep track of, but we don't have a formal system for it, that's where we try to put it. And then SharePoint is most of our websites and content that we drive internet traffic to. We also do document management and project management through SharePoint. Another item that we're actually is on the chopping block right now. So when you told us we had to cut money from the IT department budget, we were trying to develop a plan for a countywide transition to Office 365, which is Office in the cloud. We are still on premise. We do everything on premise and installed. We're a late adopter for Office 365 and also for hosted email through Outlook on Microsoft's platform. The cost of doing that is considerable, and it was in this year's budget in the countywide expenses. So we're looking at removing that and just continuing to do Office and email the way we have done it for the last 2 decades. There is a push, though, to move to Office 365. There's some licensing advantages. There's also some maintenance advantages. I will tell you that the initial transition is not cheaper. It's more expensive. And then you get your value out of it through the upgrades and through the long-term maintenance and cycles of upgrading it. The initial transition is a cost. So we're talking about removing that as one of the cost-saving measures to
What is that cost?
the 365. It's in here. I will show it to you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Bill,
Madam Chair, I have a clarification on that.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to go, right? Because they're eliminating the desktop support. I'm not sure the final year, 26, 27.
This is Charles Lask with the IT department. There's been discussions. Microsoft hasn't put out a firm date.
Right.
There's been speculation. Right now, our representative isn't telling us we won't be able to renew. We still have 2 years left on our contract, so
Okay.
we're support through then.
Okay.
So they've done this with other products where they kind of set this timeline, delay it for years. So there's no guarantee of when it's going to end. but
Right.
the writing is on the wall. They want subscription services. They want a
Right.
revenue
Yeah.
that comes in yearly.
Because,
So
because in the consumer market, they are, forcing that. And I think it's
They want
20.
recurring revenue.
Right, yeah. They're going,
We'll
they're
buy a
forcing
license
everyone
and
to
sit on it, pay a
365.
subscription every year.
Yeah. One of the questions I had, and I was talking to the CFO, we charge for PCs, laptops per user.
Yeah.
Are we charging the state's attorney for, because they have two devices, they have a laptop and a
Yeah.
desktop. So are you
So-
charging them as two users?
No, so the way the chargebacks are set up is we're trying to identify people that we're supposed to create positions and programs using special revenue.
Right.
So if it's general fund, we're doing a show back or we're telling them how much it costs.
Right.
If they're a special revenue fund, in other words, they're getting money from outside the general fund. Probably over a decade ago, we were asked to determine what that cost to the county is and charge them for the computing equipment, software,
Which I agree with.
licensing.
Yeah.
Their grant or their funding should cover it.
Okay.
So we calculated based on the average cost or the FTE cost,
Right.
the rate, and that's actually got a annual adjustment to it based on our actual costs and the number of employees that are out there. But it's employee based or FTE based. And then we also asked the special revenue departments to pay for the equipment and pay for the additional licensing, and then they pay for the services, which is the FTE charge. I think
So,
we're 2,800 right now.
okay. So in that example, the state's attorney is paying for two devices, right? Per state's attorney?
If it's special,
Out of their
if it was a
yeah.
special fund, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of their devices were purchased with ARPA money.
Yeah.
And
Which is,
if we get to the point where we're replacing those, that will be,
no, but I'm thinking more of the maintenance, which is, if they're paying for it,
yeah.
even though it may be inefficient, but, and I know I talked to you last year on that, and there's a whole security concern that prevents us.
Not relevant to today's budget discussion.
I know, well, it is because it's cost.
But it's not.
So back to the drawing board, we're projecting $288,676 in increase. That's salary and wages and contractual services. Charles can probably speak to that more, but it's 5.8% over 2024, which is more than what building management was showing. We're working on complying with the guidance that was given to us by finance. And there are some things that we're looking at, like the Office 365 and some other things that can try to help make up the 400 and some $1,000 that they asked us to cut. The good news from, I don't know if it's good news, probably shouldn't use that word. IT is also combined with countywide expenses as well. And our countywide expenses for software is significant. And one of the things in there was the big change to Office 365. So cutting that out would reduce our amount of requests quite a bit overall. So we think we can probably get the 400,000 that they're asking for, but we won't be doing Office 365 and we won't be doing the hosted Outlook email. We'll just do it the way we've always done it and put it off. But it's coming. Inevitably, it will be something we have to do. GIS, a little less interesting, but at the same time, it's important because it's a special revenue fund and it's based on fees. And this department has been used over the years and propping up different programs to provide mapping and base information for other systems and also support in other offices. So they actually subsidize or help pay for staff in other offices as well. So their budget shows a $79,911 increase this year. But our problem with this budget is that we're drawing from the fund balance they've amassed over years, and our fees are simply not keeping up with the operational expenses. And I don't want to take Charles's idea, but at the same time, Charles was saying, well, if we don't do the fee study and adjust the fee, will the general fund give us any more money? And the answer is probably no. So adjusting the fee, you're talking about a fee that someone buys a $500,000 to $1 million house and pays a $50 fee or whatever to record the documents for a GIS fee. I think our fee is $20 some now. It needs to go up. So we did the fee study, and you're going to see that later where we talk about increasing that fee. Those services, again, they go into the property information database. They're used for development. They're used for 911. They're used for emergency, public safety. We use them even for doing the board maps for redistrict. So those maps are used all over the county. In order to maintain it and keep supporting it, the fee structure has to support that, or we have to cut the programs. So they're only asking for 79,911 over last year. All of that has to come from the special fund. So it's self-balancing, but it's liquidating much of the special fund. And we need to look at that fee. And again, those are fees on real estate transactions. We also have the Mill Creek budget. Mill Creek special service area is something created, creation of the county board by ordinance. You created a special service area for this area. They generally get about $1 million in revenue. This is the breakdown. We only have one employee in there. That's Bill. So you get the one person present that's an employee. Contractual services make up most of the budget. It's landscape, maintenance of the grounds. We also do a lot of snow removal, and we have asphalt, pothole repair, sidewalk repairs. Those types of things come out of the contractual. Commodities is mostly utilities and taking care of the office and administrative overhead. So this year we're looking at $1,038,000, $84,226 increase. If we don't increase the levy, which is something that we're going to be talking about with the residents of Mill Creek. The residents of Mill Creek have an advisory body. They make a recommendation to development and the county board to keep the levy flat, raise their levy, do whatever it is that they want to do with their levy. And by ordinance, it has a limit of 50 cents per $100 assessed value. Right now, they're at about 26 cents per $100 assessed value. So without going to referendum, without a lot of legalese, you could double their revenue to get more projects done. We're not saying that. We're probably saying they need to increase their levy, though, to maintain the roads. The roads that they have in certain areas are not maintained by the county. They're not maintained by the city. They're not maintained by the township. They're maintained by the SSA. And they do not have sufficient money in $1 million budget to pave miles of roads. It's mostly operational. So if they don't start changing their idea of a levy to accommodate the roads that they're responsible for, they will be driving on gravel.
So
It's
this
just as
isn't-
simple as it
This
is.
isn't county money, correct?
It is a function of the county.
But is it our money that comes out of the general fund that helps?
Does
them
not
do
come
this?
out of general fund,
So if they choose not to fund it,
then we would,
they lose services.
yes.
We're
Yep.
just the,
These are
the
the ones you guys
messenger.
pass through and say it's not our money, it's theirs. But at the same time, the thing we fear is that if you don't address it as the board who has the authority over the levy and is responsible for the SSA, you will have that. You'll have it to where you'll have a few thousand people that have inadequate roads in a neighborhood. They will be looking for answers. We're just trying to head that off and give them an idea of how do you handle like a 10-year pavement program to fix it. So we're showing them what those numbers look like. The 10-year pavement program was just under $5 million.
Has
So
it
you-
been raised before, Grums? Has the levy ever been
We
raised?
raised it last year.
Oh, you did raise it.
Yeah, we raised it 5% last year. So, and 5% on $1 million, it's not like it's $50,000. I think it amounted to $12 per house.
No, but it seems responsible.
Yeah. And I would tell you that their rate, we do an estimate based on a $450,000 house, which is probably a nominal home in that area. And we show them what the change is to the levy if they agree to the levy change. And we do that at an advisory body meeting. And we ask them for a recommendation. If whatever they recommend, we bring it back and present it to the board. Last year, they did recommend increasing it. We haven't gotten their recommendation yet. But I'm going to say their recommendation is going to be somewhere in the $100,000 to $200,000, increase, which is, it's substantial. I mean, but at the same time, they have substantial capital projects that there's no one else to fund it. So they need to either levy it or not do it.
Go ahead. You're on the.
Mr. Berman,
What's the population in,
Bill, what's the population? 8 to 10,000 people. And I think it's, how many houses? Is it 2,500 homes and apartments and buildings.
they're operating really without a government.
They have no local government.
They have no plans for the future, really. They don't.
Yeah, when we have a discussion with them, one of the things that we come across is you do not have a public works department. We have a essentially a village. It's larger than many of our small villages. And we have a coordinator and everything is contractual. So.
They have a sweet deal, because I mean, for them to get incorporated would probably cost some, who knows, 2 to 3 times more.
I have no
One of the
idea.
comments I've heard from you, there's why we have one person we're paying salary, but it's taking other people's
Yes.
time to
Yep.
and we're not charging back for that, are we?
Yeah, we charge them administrative overhead too. We started doing that a year.
Okay,
half,
have we
2
looked
years
at that,
ago.
and is that covering your time? Well, I mean, if we're looking for more revenue and,
It's fair.
okay, and I'm not saying get greedy, but we
Yeah.
need to make sure we're current on that.
Brooke would argue not. to
And we
cover
spend a
that.
lot of time on the county board. It seems like there's 2 or 3 every meeting.
Yeah. If I told you, yeah, the other side of that story is that by ordinance, this all falls under development. So, okay, let's move on. So again, we come back, this was what was distributed to the departments and offices. And I thought this would be interesting for you to see. So building management is listed at, 9,078,000. And they're telling us that we should cut 4.8%. Those numbers don't add up because it's actually 4.7777. I was trying to figure out how they got that number out of the 4.8, but it's not, it's 4.777.
Nobody knows. It just
Uh,
popped up in the.
We
population.
reverse engineered. We figured it out. Yeah, it's from building management, it would require a $433,000 cut. If we can do that, and we're gonna keep trying. And then from IT, it's 407,123. And that's what we submitted that was, over the last year's amended budget. The one thing that we do have going for us is the countywide expenses. So when you see the numbers 9 and 9 million and 8 million up here, those include the countywide expenses. That's not IT and building management. That's literally postage for everything that gets mailed. It has all of the countywide software contracts are in there. So one of the questions I had, which we're going to talk with finance about, is if between both of these as a department, we can cut, countywide expenses and building and IT to it be equivalent or close to that 800,000 they're talking about. Could it come from a different distribution than 400,000 out of building management? Could more of it come from countywide expenses or IT, as long as it's, a legitimate cut that we can recognize? Because right now, building management requested a less than a 1% increase, and we're going to cut them 4.8%. Whereas countywide expenses went up substantially because we have lots of software requests, new software. So we're going to work with them. We're going to try and hit the total amount, but it might be a little different distribution.
Well,
what
you'll be
they're-
coming to the Monday meeting.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Because I think the whole purpose was
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
buildings and departments to report to finance.
Sure.
Finance would collate the data, but then the actual
Yeah.
discussion of whether that's going
Yep.
to be moved around or whatever would come during that Monday meeting. So I'm sure, Dale, that would be an acceptable conversation to have if we could maybe move it. Also, I would like to make sure that the things that you have in your budget for countywide expenses are not also being shown in other departments' expenses, because I think there might be some.
We've seen a couple of those. We've been
Yes.
trying to follow up. One of them we found was actually for finance.
Right,
So
so
there-
if we
we're
could do
cutting
that,
that
that would
one
be
out.
great.
That, just so you're aware, that comes out of this countywide expenses budget, though. It's not in IT's budget. And then Office 365 and Outlook comes out of the countywide expenses budget. Postage was discussed. We had postage, the clerk had
A lot of
postage.
people have postage, yeah.
Yeah, and we're not sure where that's coming from because in prior years, they didn't have it, but they had postage expenses, but they didn't have a postage budget. So we're trying to work with them to find out, is there something that they added or that's new besides the vote by mail? They are gonna have to do a relatively expensive mailing because municipalities that redistricted, Geneva just did it. You have to mail out all new voter cards and all the correspondence to change their precincts and change their districts. We'll have to get their maps and ingest their maps and bring it into our voter file. But there's also a mailing that goes out to all of the houses.
So this exercise actually helps us identify maybe duplications and, which is what
Yep.
we're looking for.
Yeah,
So-
and very fair. Yeah. We spend a lot on postage. So potential cuts for IT. The first one is Adaptive Insights. That's the budgeting tool that we believe was duplicate entry. Office 365, Exchange Online is email. We do have some miscellaneous expense line items that we were looking at. It's like, okay, well, if it's not a building and it's not a, grounds, if it's not something, we just, we're not going to call it miscellaneous. But we do buy a lot of things that just don't fit in the right bucket. And it's small amounts of dollars. It's usually like in the thousands to 10,000s a whole year. So you can make up some ground in there if you take those things out. But those are the places where you catch the weird expenses that you don't really have a place for.
I'm right
Um,
here, sweet one. I'll be there in a minute.
Okay.
Did we mute Deb?
So some cuts for building management, boy. Contractual services is where a lot of the money goes outside of people. Maintenance and repairs for buildings, maintenance and repairs for grounds. We are making some shifts. We had a budget line item that was referred to as equipment. So maintenance and repairs of equipment versus maintenance and repairs of buildings. And we're just going to consolidate all of that into buildings because it's equipment in the building or it's the building. We're trying to keep it separate at one time and it just doesn't make sense. So we're combining those. If you notice that in the budget, that building improvement or buildings went repairs and maintenance went way up and equipment is gone. That's what we're trying to do. Utilities, electric, gas, and water. Again, electric. We're trying to narrow in on what the actual electric costs are. Water. We're hoping that we can get that better. One of the questions was, well, right now we're at 3/4 of the year and we're maybe half spent on our utilities budget. But we know that there's bills that have not been sent to us because they haven't got the billing straight. So if I said, hey, we're 10, 20% ahead on our utilities right now, and then we get the monster bill because they haven't billed us in 2 months. So we're really worried that that's going to be the case. And if I tell finance, yeah, you can cut the utility budget because we're projecting a year end, in the black, $100,000, $200,000. Well, when the NICOR or somebody sends us a $200,000 bill in the 11th hour, it would not fit the curve. It would not fit the projection. So we're waiting on that.
Yeah, we saw that in animal control.
Yeah.
So it's a very real thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And we
I know
cut
that-
utilities last year.
Well, I'm waiting for Mr. Roth to say something about the light bulbs.
Oh, we are doing light bulbs. We're doing the whole electric
Yeah,
at
well,
the,
Mr. Kais asked me to bring it up in administration, so thank you for reminding
You're very
me.
welcome.
As it's been shared with me, we are not 100% LED lights.
we are not.
What percent would you say we are and what would it take to get 100%?
Boy, we've been doing a lot of retrofit LED. I'd hate to guess. We could probably try to put a number to it, but we have done a lot of. Brent, you want to take a stab at that? Heidi?
On the exterior, we're probably 25% LED. The interior, we bought 50%, and we are working towards changing those over.
Would it be a big deal to like put that together in an email so that admin could have it and maybe know the timeline and
I
what the
could-
projections are? Because it
could
comes
also-
up every meeting.
I could also speak to this. We're doing a study right now, the engineering for the judicial center and the juvenile justice center. And just to retrofit those two buildings is estimated at over $2 million. There are some ComEd rebates, but it's not going to make that big of a
No,
difference.
and I
so-
understand. I mean, and I know Energy Environmental applied for a federal grant. It was like 2.5 million. And they projected it would save 980,000 a year,
Yeah,
which is $1 million a year.
I don't think that
Don't even
2.5
pay it.
million is
Huh?
We don't
for
even
building
pay it, though.
management lighting. though.
Well, that's what I was told,
Okay, that's an.
because I
EE
challenged that. And
an
if
EE
it's not
question.
true, then I need to know the facts.
Admin question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe,
Well, the other things related to the lights is the switches, we have auto turn on and off. They're not here. In some rooms, you don't want to be
like
in the
the switch
dark.
in the closet right
You
now
know,
that's
to-
on.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
put this into perspective for you, right now in the building performance budget, this was run this morning. We have a $1.1 million budget. And year to date, we've spent $633,000. That's
Okay.
58%.
Right.
We're at about 75% of the year.
Right.
So it's 1.1 million is the gross bill.
Right.
That we're estimating. So just think, when you do solar, you're only getting the solar power during, sunlight. So it's peak. So what we get is the low cost or no cost peak power. The rest of the day, we're still on off peak electric from, a ComEd supplier. So you'll never see that $1 million be zero. It's just a percentage off of that. So we're getting, and we still get, just so everybody's clear, we still get energy bills from the solar company. It's just that we're getting a much better rate for peak power or peak energy. It's that
What
was
would we
part of
say
the
we're
deal.
saving on that right now? Or is it because
We're
everything's
trying to
so-
calculate it
and because it's
to
so
see what
screwed
our
up.
budget would be. And,
Okay.
Jody's been working with us and we're trying. I mean, we're trying to narrow
Okay,
it
because
down.
I have to set up for the
Um,
meeting.
I think initially they had said that, our energy savings would be 200,000 a year was the number that they had put
Yeah.
out there. You have to compare that to the fact that your costs for peak energy, off peak energy have been going up anyway. So you save $200,000 while, you're trying to broker to get better energy rates all the time. So, if they raise your rates, but you don't consume peak energy, you still pay for the off peak and
Right. Okay.
it's a never ending process. That's all I'll say. It just keeps going.
Can,
And-
can we limit this because we have to keep quorum for the things that have to go and
Okay.
David has to leave.
Okay.
So if we.
I
can-
do have something
We're
else,
almost
just
done.
real quick.
It's gotta be really quick. 'cause
Yeah,
we-
no.
if we lose quorum,
Who
we don't
do I
get to
talk to?
the
I've
meetings.
gotten voters concerned about the solar field.
What about, that's a different issue. I can talk to you offline if you want. That-
Okay, there's
yeah,
some big
probably
issues,
better.
complaints.
That's okay, but we really do.
Yeah,
need to
And that's
keep
it.
quorum.
I just,
You might,
Okay.
you might want to bring it to Jody
I was
Walnut.
planning on sending Jody
'cause-
an email.
I mean, Brent Brasky or Jody could. help
Okay,
you
and I can
narrow
copy
in
you
on
guys
that.
on it.
Okay.
Okay.
So last items, capital budget. And the other email we received was about capital and they had asked us to reduce general fund revenue, which means taking it out of capital, $4,349,381. I would ask the board to consider continued investment in capital using reserves. I understand you don't want to take it from the general fund, but you have over $80 million in reserves. One-time expenses for capital actually reduce operations and maintenance costs. We're not increasing operational costs. We would actually be stopping the bleeding, repairing things that are 20 years old, that are 15 years old. I can understand not taking the money directly from general fund revenues, but if you're looking for a good place to invest one-time reserve funds to keep moving forward with capital projects, that is what we would recommend. We are working on cutting $4,349,381. That's what we'll have hopefully this week. I would encourage you to support taking the money from reserves to keep those capital things moving forward. We will try to remove low priority projects, things that we think could transition to ARPA, defer some things to future years. We won't eliminate things from the list. They just might be put off. And then as much as we can, HVAC, water improvements, trying to get them onto the federal ARPA dollars.
Comes, I have a quick question.
Yes.
In your, I noticed $400,000 for the envelope for the health department building, and I have a
Yes.
question. I have a question about that because we just bought a new building. So
Yes.
do we need that $400,000 for?
Yes. You're keeping 1240 Highland and 1330 Highland. They're going to keep operating the health department from 1240. That's not a move out of Aurora. So 1240 will be operational. The windows, the exterior of the building is in very poor shape. It needs some love and care. It needs to have
So we
caulk,
intend
steel
to,
paint.
I mean, I guess the question that I had is,
Yep.
and I don't think it's been answered, is do we intend to keep that property?
That's a board discussion.
Right.
I think that you'd find lots of people who would welcome a different building, but that's,
Okay, it's just something that
Yep.
it, you know, it popped out at me
yeah,
because.
it is in there because we basically, when we looked at the fact that 1240 is going to stay, we need to do some things to continue to maintain it. So sealing the exterior envelope is a really good thing to do to protect the, even if we're going to sell the building or do something else with it, protecting it is a good idea. The building is still worth, you know, a substantial amount of money to let it go.
Thank
So
you.
these are the budgets that are in process right now. A lot of times I don't know that everybody understands what all we work on as far as budgets, but these are all the budgets that are being worked on right now. IT, buildings, capital for both communication and technology countywide expenses. We also have building management with a countywide expense. We also work on the public safety sales tax, the RTA sales tax, and we work on the judicial technology sales tax. I put some numbers in there for you in the sheets that show you kind of what those budgets look like. Those are handled generally through other committees. There's a Judicial Public Safety Strategic Planning and Technology Commission that handles the judicial technology sales tax. The public safety sales tax is primarily network infrastructure and public safety communications to connect the buildings and connect all of the different offices. But those budgets are in there as well. If you have any questions about those come out of the RTA sales tax, and we've been doing that since right around 2008, 2009 was when they started doing those.
All
Actually,
these pages come out of RTA sales tax that you included?
there are some that they're labeled at the top,
Okay,
the ones that are RTA sales tax. Their page numbers in the bottom, I could tell you.
yeah, I don't see where it's labeled,
Yeah,
but I also don't have my glasses on, so.
so public safety RTA sales tax starts on page 30.
Oh, okay, I'm not there yet, all right.
Yep. 29, I'm sorry. There's
Okay.
one page before that. 29, and then there's the transactions. 29 is the summary page. And then it goes into transactions, and then we follow that with the judiciary side. One of the things I would say is that when they set these up, the primary goal of setting these up was to fund the public safety software systems and infrastructure for the software for the sheriff, and then the judiciary software systems and the infrastructure for the judiciary. And they did it using special funds. So they use that to buy the records management system, the jail management system, the dispatch system for 911, and to do all the improvements to those systems. Same thing for judiciary. It was called Odyssey. Now it's called Enterprise Justice, but we're using the judiciary fund to support the court system, the state's attorney, public defender, the court clerk, And we'll soon be working and are working with the supervision, adult supervision and court services.
So not out of the general fund.
Those are not out of the
Okay.
general fund,
Which you're
but
not required to cut anything not out of the general.
no, not at this time. We're
Okay.
not.
Just trying to keep my quorum here, Roger.
Okay, that's all we have for a budget report. I can stop there. And if you have questions, I'll stick around after if you want to ask us questions, email us questions. We will be doing our best to get everything in by Friday for finance. They'll have everything that we can do.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions or can we move on to, proposed site improvements? No, you
So-
don't want to do proposed site improvements? Oh, okay. I don't even know why I'm asking you. You're not even on the committee. Okay. All right. Yep. No?
Do we have Claire online, Blair?
Hi, can you hear
Excellent.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I am here. Okay.
I can't hear.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Oh, yeah, we
Claire.
can't hear.
Can we pull up my first just
Blair,
the
she had it in the
part of-
packet slides.
oh
Yeah. We're going back to it right now.
Okay,
She
thank
is.
you.
It's about page 3 or 4, Blair. There it is, right
Okay.
there.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is East Fabian Parkway, the recycling center there. By way of infrastructure, all we really have there is what's called a ground level office, which is a fancy way of saying a shipping container office. We don't have any climate controlled storage there, just a semi trailer that's used to store recycling materials, mostly electronics, before it's hauled off site. You can actually just see from this aerial that the asphalt on the site is in really bad shape. It's kind of like the surface of the moon out there. We get it patched every year, but it really isn't working. So the proposal here is to use some ARPA funding to make significant site improvements. If we go to the next page. So this is kind of a mock-up diagram of what we're proposing for this site. We're proposing a larger footprint, increase the size of the concrete pad. That's mostly to facilitate movement of the forklift around the site without chewing up the asphalt. We're proposing a new 24 by 24 climate control garage space, which should have an overhang for outside area as well. And then certain elements would stay on site. The semi trailer, it's not the nicest thing to look at, but it's pretty necessary for operations. The scrap metal container and another waste management container we have out there now for cardboard. There are a few elements of the plan here to just improve aesthetics of the site, including a native landscape buffer with some taller like arborvitae in the back row there to just kind of block the view of the trailer and the scrap metal. Like a yellow post security gate similar to what you see at a forest reserve. Both a great improvement in terms of function. And for just creating a barrier. Really serves no function. It just goes along the road, and it grows a lot of weeds actually that can prevent people from being able to see our
Claire, can you
signs
wait
for the
a
site
second?
properly. So we're
Claire,
proposing to
this
take
is,
all of that out.
Claire,
Yes.
can you turn off your camera? That's eating up all your bandwidth. Try
Yes.
that,
Hi.
see if you, because you're breaking up as you talk.
Oh, no.
You just turn off your camera.
Did I?
No, you need to because we can't hear you.
You had to turn it.
I can turn it around.
There
Anyone
you go.
use?
You're okay now. It's off.
It's better.
Is it gone?
Yes.
Yeah, Blair
Oh.
did it. Blair
Oh,
rocks.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Blair.
Blair. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, and is my audio coming through better now?
A little bit.
Much, much better.
Okay, good. Okay, so essentially these improvements are aimed at much improving the functionality and the aesthetics of the site. If we want to go to the next page. I think the next page should be showing just kind of a picture of the type of office we're looking at. Obviously, this would be bid out. And this is a kit build modular office. And we wouldn't necessarily demand it would be this exact model, but it would be this or equal kind of thing. Then the next slide, actually skip, if you want to skip 2 ahead. Is this Summit 476 is the square footage of the new office space. And we're looking at option A with just a single door and a side window. And then the final picture, final slide there is just the cut sheet of essentially what the layout looks like. It's kind of modeled on a tiny home. Obviously this wouldn't be for someone to live in. We'd have 2 areas of office space there. One would be used by our contractor on the site that actually operates the electronics and textile collections. And the other half would be for county staff. Probably I would move most of my operations over to that site if we got this going. Other notable improvement, just we would need to add a septic field to the site to accommodate a bathroom just for normal staff use. There's a kitchenette in there too, but again, it would just be very low amount of water use and a very small septic system. In terms of the plan for this work, we have encountered a hiccup. We contacted the city of Geneva to, better understand what's allowable under city code. And we came to learn that so the whole property at some point was incorporated into the city of Geneva, and it is zoned rural residential. And probably whatever the previous uses of the site, as the jail, the juvenile home facility, that kind of thing, those were probably grandfathered in as existing uses. And when the recycling center was established back in 2007, predating myself and Jody in our current roles, no change in zoning was done. It was, I think, decided at the time, because we're only using temporary structures, that it was going to just be fine. But what we're proposing, is more, the office might still be considered a temporary structure, but like the garage unit, we're not putting them up so that we can tear them down, in a year or 2. So at this point, what's been recommended by the city is that we include in the project plan a very small change to Geneva's zoning code. It's literally changing the word municipal to governmental, because county is not a municipality, but we are governmental. And then submitting a special use permit request with the project. So that'll take time and money that we weren't necessarily planning on, but I think it's a pretty important step to moving forward. And that's all I had for now. We will be putting the official the bid, the paperwork, everything together, and it will go through the ARPA committee for approval, and then it would continue through the board committees and eventually come before the whole board.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair Gums, I have a lot of questions, but I'd like to
You just ask
postpone
one.
those so we can move on.
What would you?
I don't
do?
have questions. I have questions for Roger about
Oh, you have
this.
questions for
But-
Roger.
So I'd like to ask those
Sure.
questions after we get to the resolution, so we keep
Okay.
going.
That would be great. Okay,
Perfect.
remind me. We'll come back to it.
Thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion and a second for resolution number TMP 242737, authorizing a contract for building management snow plowing services with Winter Services LLC. Do I need a bid
Comes
amount
will
in
move.
there?
I'll second.
Okay,
Ready? Okay, so this is a bid project for snow removal services for the building management department. This is a budgeted expense. It's a 3-year contract with Winter Services in the amount of $250,000 per year. Again, it's a budgeted expense. We're recommending approval.
okay. Any questions? Discussion? No? Do you have a question? Okay, can you take the roll?
Berman,
You're not the right person.
Berman, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis. Is he still here?
Did Davis leave? Mark.
Ford? You not here?
Oh, he's not here.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Doobie.
Should be aye. Mark, are you there? Okay, well, it passes.
Snooze,
without
you
one,
lose.
Okay.
Right? Okay. All right, do I have a, oh man, I gotta go through all these pages now. Do I have a motion and a second for a resolution authorizing updated capital projects from the capital fund? Is that actually on there? I'm still scrolling through my.
Yes.
pages.
That's it.
It is.
Gums will
Okay.
move.
I'll,
Oh, sorry, TMP 242750. Nope,
No.
that's not it. I'm too far. Okay,
two,
so Gums is a motion. Who seconds?
I'll second.
Okay.
It's 2-4, it's right here, 2747. Oh, you don't have a glass.
Oh,
It's 24-2747.
thank you. It's in that dead zone.
Ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
So this is again, just the capital projects that were authorized by the county in the past. What we did is we moved ARPA projects out of the list. There's a second page that has ARPA projects that we're actively working on. And then there's also new work that has to be done, or, you know, expenses that we've added to the project list by shifting around different projects from year to year. We're pulling some forward because some things can't be done still this year. So at the bottom of the list, you're going to see new exterior for the Child Advocacy Center. There's some stairs and porch work that needs to be done. We're actually going to fix the windows in the mailroom, which are leaking air, hot and cold air. And then we also need, once we get to the windows, we need to address the heating and ventilation in the mailroom. So those were added to the project list. We're still well within the amount of money that was budgeted for 2024. And we're actively working on the 4.35 million that was recommended for cuts from finance out of 2025. But that might affect some of the things that we are doing now. We're going to reprioritize, try to make sure we rank and classify everything according to public safety, according to asset depreciation, things that are preserving assets, protecting the buildings and things that we own, and then obviously public safety. Those are our priorities. So we'll be working through that, but we recommend the approval of the capital list as it's provided.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Speak
I don't
now.
agree with everything on the list, but I'm gonna vote for
Okay.
it.
Okay.
We could,
Okay. Would you pick roll?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
and Davis. And Ford's gone, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Doobie.
Should be aye. Okay, that moves us to resolution TMP 242750, authorizing expenditure of funds for HVAC maintenance, repair supplies and equipment with Train US Inc. through Omnia for the building management department. Do I have a motion and a second?
Berman moves.
Second?
I'll second.
All right.
okay. So this is an Omni agreement, which is a joint purchasing agreement for Train. Train provides all of the services for heating and air conditioning through a national contract. And what we're trying to do is get approval for this contract to be in place for the purchase of heating and air conditioning and services with Train for the ARPA projects. And it's more about the timing from the time we have the design and plan to a proposal and purchase and implement, getting those things under contract with a vendor that has an established national contract or a contract that's already been vetted by Ernst and Young. I just want to say, as much as Ernst and Young can draw the ire of some people, they've been helpful to
Me.
they've been helpful to Heidi, myself, and others as we go through these federal procurement requirements, trying to find a federal procurement vehicle that's entirely been competitively bid, meets all the federal requirements, and can be done in a way with a company that's substantial enough to handle this size of work and get the work done in a manner that we can comply with all the requirements. So this is something that we need in order to do the ARPA projects that the board's already approved. You're going to probably see a similar type of agreement where we're trying to get a similar type of arrangement with Johnson Controls, JCI, and we might even bring in someone else just because of the amount of work, trying to make sure that once we get a contract like this in place, we can have them drafting proposals and competing based on these national purchasing agreements. So we still have competition, but we get the cover that they've been through a federal procurement process already. So we're recommending approval of this. I know it's a large number. This is all based on ARPA projects and the funding that the board's already approved. And it just gives us the agreement in place that we can start exercising, getting proposals from these people and getting them lined up to sign the agreements. The agreements for this work will ultimately come before the board. So.
Okay. So the appropriation amount is $12,223,000.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Ready to vote? Okay.
Berman
Berman, yes.
and Davis, are you there? Okay. Gums,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Juby.
Juby, aye. Okay, moves us to an ordinance. Woohoo! Ordinance number, does this count? Do we have to do 2 readings at the committee level or just 2 readings at the? So this won't be coming back next admin, right?
No.
Okay, just one each time?
It would go through county board is where the reading
Okay.
part comes in.
Okay, so may I have a motion and a second to talk and possibly pass ordinance number TMP 242669, increasing the GIS fee.
Gums will move.
Berman, second.
This is Charles Lasky with the IT department. So a couple of years ago, we did a fee study because we were finding that the amount of revenue coming in was not covering expenses that time. A lot of that was coming out of COVID and the change in property recordings. So we made an adjustment. We tried to be conservative with that, not go too high. And then as we've been tracking it, we're not covering what we need to keep up with the current expenses of GIS. So we asked that company that did the previous fee study do an update and go through and compare things. And they came back with a new recommendation based on current situations, recommending that we increase our fee to $48. So that is what, going through that with them and looking at things with the GIS budget and their revenue, we agree with their assessment. We'd recommend approving this change, increase the fee to $48. Tom Nikoski is here from GIS, and he can answer any additional questions on that or if there's anything specific. But based on the study and the review, it seems to match up with our kind of independent review of numbers as well. So.
Anybody have any questions? David? Mr.
David
Young?
Young. So this GIS fee, can you explain to me when that is? Is that when you purchase a house, a brand new property? Is that, I think what you said earlier today, but is that
When
what
It's a recorded document.
Right. So if there's a refinance, if there was a purchase, if you're recording that, and Tom can speak more to that.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, we have to, we receive a fee from the recorder's office. Not every single document that is recorded collects a fee, but most all of them do. That would be if you refinance your home, that's property. If you anything that you're recording, I know, for instance, military type documents don't get charged for a fee, but we get a big percentage of all recordings are charged that. Currently, we're at $25, I believe.
The
Right, so
current-
it sounds like it's more of a real estate transaction thing.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Generally, when a home is bought or sold,
thank you.
could be commercial property when it's bought or sold too, but a lot of the volume is homes.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions?
Just a statement, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Just want to thank you guys for reevaluating it and going back to that company, and thank you for your work on it. Some things aren't comfortable, but I appreciate it.
Ready to vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Young, Doobie.
To be aye. Okay, we touched on it before with the SSA and Mill Creek. Do we need to talk, can we skip that?
We have nothing for action today.
We have anything under vehicles?
No.
Okay, new business. I'm going to say because we don't have anything else to vote on and Mr. Young's packing up. Ms. Gums, if this is where you would like to make your comment, that would be awesome.
Well, going back to the Fabian Recycle Center, I did have some concerns
Wait,
about.
I need to make an announcement.
Oh.
With him leaving, we no longer have quorum, so you've just entered into the gathering section of our meeting. Okay. Yeah, you can do whatever you want now.
It's our time now.
Yeah, it's our time, so go ahead.
What was I saying? No, I'm joking. So I have some questions about this. Everybody's gonna be mad at me. Stop it. Stop. So my concern is, like, I don't know what our operating costs and maintenance costs are for this property. When's the last time it was like a Fabian property and just in general? Okay, that it's a general conversation. I'm not picking on this
Oh, I thought you
particular
were talking,
project.
because your question had been about the health department. I didn't know if we were talking about
No, my question was
Okay.
about the Fabian.
recycling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just need clarification. I got a little lost.
Pay attention.
Like a floor amendment here.
Which
What were we talking about earlier?
operating
Oh,
costs
I'm,
of that?
You know, in the closet.
Oh,
We're just having a conversation, so now we can have
it's
clowns.
fine. We're good.
Anyways, so, you know, I should know this, but I don't know this. How long has that been a vacant property? The Fabian property?
Vacant?
Yeah, like, I mean, we're not really inhabiting it.
So
right?
the sheriff's office substantially moved out of there in 2008. It was Labor Day weekend,
Okay,
2008. They moved to the new building. It left behind some residual services, which were in the diagnostic center was still there. And they had the sheriff's garage, the fuel center. And they did have for a while, the administrative office of the sheriff was still there. And we had moved the 911 center into the administrative offices
I remember that.
for a period of time. The property has been basically all of the buildings were demolished except for what was required a year ago. Mark Smith and buildings, we were working on that for a period of time. It was something that was supposed to be done when they moved and was never done. And then this committee kept it in the budget and we executed the demolition in the last year and a half. The only thing left on the campus is a radio tower that's under a Crown Castle Pinnacle lease. There is a storage garage that's still largely used by the sheriff. There's also the recycling center, which is I would describe it as temporary quarters on an old pad of asphalt and gravel, area.
I guess that's why I'm asking the questions, because, you know, like when I'm looking at getting them what they need for the recycling center, I'm looking at the space that they currently occupy and I'm trying not to be wasteful in my thought, right? So
Yeah.
I haven't really seen anything substantial that we're going to be doing with this property. And I guess it leads me to the bigger conversation of what are we going to do with this property? And it's not for you to answer
Sure.
that, but just for us to have that conversation, because we haven't had that conversation really. And, you know, I don't, for this project to go forward, I just want to vet out if there's a better location for it and can we get rid of this piece of land? Are we going to do something one day with this piece of land? And how much does it cost us to maintain this piece of land until we actually do use it? I mean, obviously we're pinched here. So, I mean, all these things have to go through my brain for me to get to the end result.
Yeah,
So,
we do some snow removal, some mowing, but we're not doing any improvements. I would describe the property as inventory.
right.
But we don't have any plans for developing that property. That may be something in the future, but
Roth here. Roger, you gave me a tour last year on there when
Yep.
we were looking at that OEM vehicle. That storage is not a small one. That's pretty decent size.
4,000 square feet.
Yeah. And then also, are they still storing all those abandoned vehicles over there? The
I think
sheriff
most of that's been cleared up. We
has
were
it,
asked to
because there was
clear
about a
that.
dozen of them
Yeah.
that were probably 20 years old.
No, Mark?
Probably isn't a handful.
Yeah.
Okay. There was closer to a dozen last year.
Mark also, he oversaw
Most
the
of it.
project there for demolition, just to make sure you know. We had underground storage tanks that were removed and environmental EPA. We actually got the
Okay.
no further action letter, so it's clean. The site's
Okay.
clean. We actually got all that. And we recorded all the documents and
Okay. The other thing you had shared with me is we have infrastructure in place there, right?
we do.
Fiber.
At the curb, there's fiber.
Okay.
To
Which
the
is a
tower.
big investment, and it's 70 acres, correct?
No,
About-
it's roughly 45.
Okay, I had heard 70 last year.
It's
so
about
all right.
5 or 6 parcels and about 45 acres.
What's the value at? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, sure. We had that property. We had a unsolicited offer at one point that was about 6 million for the property, and the broker opinion of value in 2019 was anywhere from 2 million to 8 million, depending on the use. And they said that they thought the most reasonable expectation was 4 to 6 million, but that was with all the stuff on the property.
Right. And that's actually before,
Yeah.
I mean, we've substantially grown in price.
Yeah,
value of
we've had a
stuff right now.
couple of large storage building companies ask us if we would sell that property to them for the purpose of putting large big box storage. So they were unsolicited and we
Sure.
just
Couldn't we
didn't
put
pursue
large
it.
back storage there to meet our needs? Why would we? like,
Yeah.
why would we sell that?
Sell it.
So, and is that the Amasa White property? Is that sectioned off from that 40 whatever acres?
It's in the middle of that property as
Not
far
on
as
its own. It's not like,
it's an island in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like contiguous to the road. You'd have to reparcel
okay,
it.
all right, that's what I
Yeah.
thought it had to be parcel.
Yeah, there's probably, I think, 5 or 6 parcels of property there that make up the whole campus. It's not one parcel. So,
No, I was throwing it out there because, you know, it's something that I have to work through in my brain.
All right.
yeah,
And to talk
don't
to
know.
other people is helpful.
No,
I don't
it's
know if
fine.
we-
you have questions or if we're moving on.
one
Nasty.
question I had when that came up was, this is an incorporated Geneva. I don't know why we'd want to necessarily put it on septic. There's a city sewer, but I'm curious, but I'll follow up with Jody.
We,
And
can you
Isn't-
hear me?
Yeah,
We think that the closest sewer line is back where the old jail was.
Oh,
There were
okay.
obviously laterals in the past, but we're assuming that they were probably damaged with the demolition projects and
Yeah,
are probably
okay.
not in usable condition.
it'd be way too big.
And this is Michelle. I just want you to know I'm not picking on your project. I just, it has to play through in my brain.
No, I totally understand. Thank you.
And also, this is Roth here. Environmental last year, there was a, because of the leakage from the land dump, all the neighbors in the neighborhood could not be on well. They had to go on city water. So you can't put a well in there.
I thought we got the
That was,
clear on that.
Claire, can you clarify? You remember that discussion last year?
I don't remember that particular discussion. I
It was
do
in
know
one of
that
the
there,
environmental meetings.
there is a drinking water main that goes out to the road there. So we weren't
Yeah.
we weren't considering.
Well, it was, I think, the
putting
neighbors
it
across
on
the
all of
street
it.
because of the leakage, so it would apply to that property too.
Oh, Okay.
And there were some neighbors that didn't want to go on city water.
Well, it's interesting too, because the properties across the street are actually city of Batavia.
Yeah, it's Batavia. Okay, any more questions? Okay, do we have any old business? I don't think we can put the reports on file, unless, of course, you all remember that we put the reports on file at 11:30. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter if we need an executive session, we can't have one, and we can't have an adjournment because we're not really a meeting, we're a gathering. So everyone have a
We
wonderful
could
evening.
say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Yeah.
On
Bye,
one
everyone.
comment, you did an excellent job of being the acting committee